glad to be here, excited to be part of Sundays at 2, and just think it's great that so many of y'all come out for this, and this has been something that I've wanted to do for a while, so I'm excited to do it. I'm going to do all original music today, all our songs that I've written over the last little bit. Many of them are historic in nature, not all of them. Not all of them are true, some of them are fictional. We'll see if you can tell the difference. I put out some books on the table, and I know some of you have noticed those. These books happen to be kind of reference books that I've used for some of the songs that I'll do today, and so that'll be neat and something that I draw to your attention. These came from public libraries in the Richmond area, where I spend most of my time, though I do enjoy coming over here for weekends. So I'm going to start with a song about Hurricane Camille. Who was in Virginia in 1969? Okay, you all may remember the devastation of Hurricane Camille in Nelson County, which is just south of Charlottesville. Terrible, terrible floods, mudslides, and so I'm going to start with that, and we'll get going in just a sec.
Thanks.
This is called The Night That Old Mountain Washed Away. On the steep-sided hills of Virginia, the 19th of August, '69, terror from on high, raging river in the sky. The night that old mountain washed away. 30 inches fell in 6 hours. Our little creekside village just disappeared. The torrent pouring down, I can't forget that sound. The night that old mountain washed away. Deep in the dark without warning, jolted from our beds by that awful roar. The lightning flashed, and then we thought the world would end. The night that old mountain washed away. The mudslide caught up with Bobby Stimson, Lizzie French, Claude Huff, and Little Mike Wood. 100 and more were drowned, 37 never found. The night that old mountain washed away. Man from Massey's Mill. The memory of the night, it haunts me still. My brother and me, clinging to a tree, helpless as our mom was swept away. Deep in the dark without warning, jolted from our beds by that awful roar. The morning light revealed a landscape made unreal. The night that old mountain washed away. The night Nelson County washed away. Thank you. that song at the 45th anniversary celebration or gathering commemoration of that event in a little museum near Livingston, Virginia. And there were lots of people there who had survived the storm and remembered it, and I was just flattered to be among them. And boy, it was a really chilling and neat experience. There's a little cemetery there in a little community called Davis Creek, which is close to there, and a little Baptist church, and across the road is the cemetery. And if you go and walk in that cemetery, you'll see family graves, one after the other, same last name, same death date. There are 9 Perrys in that cemetery, and it's really chilling and just a devastating event. And look, the Roar of the Heavens here tells that story, as well as the story of Camille as it came ashore in the Gulf Coast, where it also was just a horrible story. So not all of the songs I'm going to do are going to be quite that sad. So just in case anybody is a little worried about that, we'll do some fun ones too. So we're going to do one now about the Bedford Boys. Some of you saw that book up here. You may know the story about that, that in Bedford, Virginia, which is near Lynchburg, a lot of people went into the Army, actually the Army National Guard at the same time, all together from the town of Bedford, and they went ashore together on D-Day. And quite a number of them were killed, and it really was quite a change for that town. And so this is called Wave After Wave. Daunted by the risk, the boys from Bedford came ashore beneath the Normandy cliffs. Through the surf they struggled in a hail of bullets and shells. The summit ended quickly, a sudden fiery hell. Wave after wave they landed, coming in steady as the tide. They're on the sands at Omaha Beach. Wave after wave they die. In the Western Union office, the corner of Bridge and Main, Betty Tees received the news. She learned the fate of Company A. We regret to inform you each telegram did start. The awful truth delivered would break a mother's heart. Wave after wave, she fought back the tears as she read each boy's name. The dead and the missing, 22 in all, the town forever changed. Later, their numbers now are few. The men who survived that storied beach started life anew. Most of them kept silent, the memories locked inside, the cities of devastation and all the friends who died. Wave after to a distant shore. Say fare thee well to that brave generation who fought the Second World War. Wave after wave we'll remember, grateful for those we know, and offer a prayer for the boys from Bedford who finally made it home. Who finally made it home. And a good friend from Bedford who was a little louder. Okay, I'll turn it up. Had a good friend from Bedford who was actually a World War II veteran. He was not part of that group. He was a little too young for that, but he went in right at the tail end of the war, and that story meant a lot to him. And he encouraged me to write that song, so I always appreciative. So, a little lighter song maybe next. We have any quilters in the room? There's a quilter. Okay, anybody else? Oh, good, good. So this song is about making quilts. And this one's a little more fictional. And it's called Crazy Quilt. And it talks about, you know, those crazy quilts are quilts that have all kinds of different fabrics and patterns and nothing real uniform about them. And I got to thinking that one day I thought that, you know, life is like a crazy quilt. Nanny had a box that she kept by her chair, filled with scraps from her sewing, picked from the dresses my cousins would wear, year by year, collection growing. We asked her why she kept those scraps in the old box packed to the hilt. Children, one day I'm gonna get to that, gonna make me a crazy quilt. Corduroy and denim, gingham and felt, you gotta play the cards you've been dealt. A patchwork puzzle, that's how we're built. Life is like a crazy quilt. One day with the house all shut up in snow, Annie got her blanket going. Every little piece she'd fit just so. They all found a place in her soul. All these years I've collected them, the memories from the life I've filled. To me each one is like a precious gem. My life has been a crazy quilt. Corduroy and denim, gingham and felt, like a queen-size portrait of her wise old self. Some parts pride and some parts guilt. Life is like a crazy quilt. Decades have passed, Nanny's long since gone. The quilted warms my bed. I've gathered my memories as the years roll on, and And I recall what Nanny said. Corduroy and denim, gingham and felt, the simplest joy, the richest wealth. When tears are shed and dreams are built, life is like a crazy quilt. Corduroy and denim, gingham and felt, you gotta play the cards you've been dealt. No sense crying over milk that's spilt. Life is like a crazy quilt. Life is like a crazy quilt. Thank you. That's my favorite of my songs. Now, we're going to do a little audience participation. Are you up for it?
Sure.
Okay. Let me see, show of hands, who drums in the car? Okay. I got 3. That's not enough drummers. I need a few more drummers. Okay. If you drum in the car, I want you to help me. Okay? What I would like you to do is this. Who sings in the shower? Okay, if you sing in the shower, you're going to be singing with me, okay? And we're going to do this song now. I'm going to check my tuning. We're going to do this song about Box Brown. Anybody know about Box Brown? Every Virginian should know about Box Brown. Box Brown mailed himself to freedom in 1849. From Richmond to Philadelphia, okay? And so this is a work song. This is kind of a call and response from the African American tradition, a work song. And so we need singers because it's a call and response. I'm going to call, you're going to respond, okay? And the drum beat will help as well. But the chorus goes, Henry Brown's box carried him north. Henry Brown's box held a brave man. When the box was open, this much was sure: Henry Brown would never be a slave again. Carried him north, held a brave man. This much was sure. Those are your parts. Okay? Right there. Okay? You got no excuse. Okay? So let's give this a try. If we hear the drummers. It was spring, the last of March, 1849. There in the back of State's Bakery, 3 blocks off the line, a horse-drawn wagon, a heavy wooden crate. Henry Brown took his lead. He said, "Drop me in, boys, nail down the top, put me on the RFP." Henry Brown's box carried him north. Henry Brown's box held a brave man. When the box was open, this much was sure: Henry Brown would never be a slave again. Henry burned his hand, was excused from work at the factory. He was born a slave, but would not die one. Tomorrow he'd be free. From Richmond to Philadelphia, Henry and his box did ride by wagon and boat, train and coach, only hope inside. Henry Brown's box carried him north. Henry Brown's box held a brave man. When the box was open, this much was sure: Henry Brown would never be be a slave again. You all sound good. Many tried, many had failed to escape slavery's ugliness. Henry risked his neck, fixed his eye on a prize. Care of Adams Express. It was Henry Brown's box. Talking about Henry Brown's box, you know it held a brave man. When the box was open, this much was sure: Henry Brown would never be a slave again. To the office of Pascal Williamson, Henry in his box arrived. Removing the top, they could not know if he was dead or alive. Henry stretched his frame, he cleared his throat. How do you do, gentlemen? Blessed is the man who hopes in the Lord, I'll not be a slave again. Said Henry Brown's box, carrying the gold. Henry Brown's box, you know it held a brave man. When the box was open, this much was shown: Henry Brown would never be a slave again. I said Henry Brown's box, carried the gold. Henry Brown's box, you know it held a brave man. When the box was open, this much was shown: Henry Brown would never be a slave again. You guys did pretty well on that. That's good. That's good. That was fun. Okay. This next one is comes a little closer to home. Everybody's been to the Steamboat Museum, right? Everybody? Good, good. I think that is so cool that how frequent the steamboats plied the waters of the bay, brought people to Baltimore, down to Norfolk, etc. I just think that is an interesting story, and an interesting thing to know about. I think that museum does a wonderful job. This is a ghost story based on some things in that museum. Just beyond the pilings, through a flat gray line, a sudden chill arising on a misty, foggy night. Few may perceive her beyond sight or sound, a floating apparition returns to our town. Miss Lady Haverlock was nearly 102 on the night that she died. Some say they saw it too. Lady had ridden to Baltimore when she was just 9 or 10. She often talked of how she wished the boats would come again. Some say it's the Amigas, which foundered on the rocks. Maybe it's the Rappahannock, which burned beside her dock. But when that crew of spirits answers their captain's wish, the long-forgotten steamboat comes, shrouded in the mist. I was out taking a walk. That night I couldn't sleep. I wandered past the land standing there beside the creek. As I looked out toward the river, though I really couldn't see, I swear I felt something there headed straight for me. The captain and the crew made a final stop to pick up a lone passenger. Old Letty had her lock. She danced up the gangway like the girl she once had been, drifting out beyond the fog, disappear again. Thank you very much. All right, so I'm going to do another song. This one comes from Northern Virginia. This one has a Civil War element to it, and it concerns my grandfather. My grandfather was born in 1894 and lived in kind of near Dulles Airport, Chantilly, Virginia, that way. And he knew that behind his property there was an old creek bed along Little Rocky Run, and there was a big tree there that had some initials carved on that tree. And the initials said HRM Company B 25M 1863. And so my grandfather was fascinated by that. He knew it was from the Civil War, but he had no idea who HRM was, much less what all the other letters meant. But he wanted to find it out. And so he had a friend who was a historian, and they did some research, and they figured out that H. Randall Montfort was a captain in the Maine infantry that had been patrolling along Little River Turnpike in 1863. And my grandfather started a pen pal relationship with Mr. Montfort's granddaughter. And so they exchanged letters and Christmas cards for a couple of years. And so this song is about that tree, the beech tree. And it has 4 verses. The first 2 verses, I've broken a songwriting principle in this song. You're not supposed to do what I did in this song. But the first 2 verses are in the voice of Mr. Montfort, the captain from Maine. The 3rd verse is in the voice of my grandfather. And the 4th verse, you'll have to figure out. This is called the Beech Tree, but I'm gonna have a little mercy on you, make sure I'm in tune before we do that. it together, volunteers from Maine. H. Randall Montfort was my given name. 30 years old, built like a post. They made me an officer, I was older than most. On the day here in question, Sunday I believe, I climbed on a wagon and carved on that tree. I was here, I stood in this spot, marched for miles, I froze and thought, if I never make it home or become old and gray, know I was here, I passed by this way. 100 years on, a man stood and stared at the tree in the wood, and the mystery written there. He considered the year 1863, when someone left a message on the handsome old tree. I was here, and like the back of my hand, I knew well these woods where the beach did stand. When I'm dead and gone, a part of my legacy will be solving the riddle carved on that tree. Icy winter gray and the golden hues of fall to the brilliant greens of April, I've seen it all. For centuries I've flourished here in this wood, through the droughts and the floods, proudly I've stood. I was here I stood my ground, stretched out my branches, spread shade all around. When a storm finally takes me and another claims this space, know I was here, I grew in this place. I was here I stood my ground, stretched out my branches, spread shade all around. When a storm finally takes me and another claims this space, know I was here, I grew in this place.
Is it still there?
No. Actually, they had to cut out, well, I mean, the tree died and was dying, and so they cut out the part with those initials in it, and it is on display at Chantilly High School. In a little case there, so that's kind of cool. And I think it was in the 60s that my grandfather figured that out, so it was about 100 years later. And my dad was very interested in that whole story, and remembered his father being obsessed with it, and just all of that.
Well, I figured that would be the fourth verse, either you or your dad.
Very good. So I'm going to do one more Civil War song for you now. This one comes from this book, April 1865, and it concerns the very final days of the war, and it's called At Night They Dreamed of Home. We fled our trenches Sunday and made a long march west, a dirty, starving remnant, 3 days with no rest. There at Amelia Courthouse, Beside the Danville line, a train was sent to meet us. We waited there to dine. Our regimental captain was schooled at Lexington. Our bugler was among the lost, his mother's only son. Home for me was Chatham, where the woods are thick and deep. As we rested by the rail, we drifted off to sleep. And we dreamed of Georgia peaches and cured Virginia ham, pans of steaming cornbread and biscuits filled with jam, Mama's fried chicken and honey from the comb. Asleep in our own beds, at night we dreamed of home. When the train came into view, we all let out a cheer. An engine and one boxcar, salvation drawing near. You pull up beside us, and the order was passed. Open up that boxcar so these boys can eat at last. And we dreamed of Georgia peaches and cured Virginia ham, pans of steaming cornbread and biscuits filled with jam, Mama's fried chicken and honey from the comb. Sleeping in our own beds, at night we dreamed of home. A sergeant threw the latch and the door slid open wide. The men pressed together, straining to look inside. There on the floorboards was nothing we could use. No meat or potatoes, a boxcar full of shoes. Yet we dreamed of Georgia peaches and cured Virginia ham, pans of steaming cornbread and biscuits filled with jam, Mama's fried chicken and honey from the comb. Sleeping in our own beds, and still we dreamed of home. We knew it was over. We marched on in disbelief. Our stomachs were clawing empty that day at Sailor's Creek. Then came Appomattox. That was the final straw. When the Union boys shared their hardtack, our tears began to fall. They said they dreamed of silver rockfish from the coast of Cape Cod, corn growing straight and tall on the Indiana sod. The mighty Niagara River, its waters white with foam, leaving this dreadful war behind. Like us, they dreamed of home. Detailed in that book. That's a wonderful book. So Jay Winnick, April 1865, the month that saved America. I don't think this is as big a deal on the Northern Neck as it is in suburban Richmond. People are keeping chickens in backyards everywhere, and it's getting to be quite a problem. And so my neighbors have chickens and pigs and dogs, cats, ducks, geese, chickens, and a rooster. So this next song is about that, and this one has a recipe in it. Has anybody ever made beer can chicken? Yeah. Okay, well this will teach you all you need to know about beer can chicken. You did it, what kind of beer did you use?
The cheapest.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly right. So everybody knows what PBR is? Okay. This is called the beer can chicken instant. Well, I'm not sure how it happened, and the truth is hard to admit, but I ate my neighbor's rooster in an angry, ravenous fit. He'd been keeping me up every night, so I decided to even the score. So I scooped him up and swung my hat. He ain't gonna cockle-doo no more. Now the plot was hatched weeks ago, but it exploded most violently. I was shocked that a bird could cause such rage from a mild-mannered guy like me. Sorry, I blew the cord there. I was shocked that a bird could cause such rage from a mild-mannered guy like me. But when he wandered past my fence and commenced to scratch it in my beds, man, that rooster was quite a sight running round without his head. So after I plucked his feathers, I faced a further test of wills. Should I fry or bake or saute him, or maybe fire up the grill? I struck a match to the charcoal with mesquite for the wood. And then Trudy called across the fence, "Man, that sure smells good." The flavor is something special and the aroma can't be beat. You stick a beer up on the Weber and a chicken on the seat. It's a potent combination, tender to the bone. Yes, I popped the top on a PBR and put that rooster on the throne. Now afterward I felt pretty guilty, though my tummy was satisfied. But you see, I'm not like George Washington, and I did indeed tell a lie. So later that night Trudy called, all worried and upset. "Have you seen Mr. Bojangles?" I never knew he was their pet. So I joined in the search party for Trudy's long-lost bird. We bushwhacked through the brambles, though I knew it was absurd. Then someone spied the smoking beer can, and I knew the jig was up. It could have all ended so differently if they just kept a kitten or a pup. The flavor is something special and the aroma can't be beat. You stick a beer up on the Weber and a chicken on the seat. It's a potent combination, tender to the bone. Yes, I popped the top on the PBR, I put that rooster on the throne. Well, now the food in here, it's awful, and the days drag out so long. Behind these bars you remember all the things that went so wrong. So I've made a resolution. I'm turning over a brand new leaf. If they ever let me out of here, by God, I'm sticking to beef. The flavor is something special and the aroma can't be beat. You stick a beer up on the Weber and a chicken on the seat. It's a potent combination, tender to the bone. Yes, I popped the top on a PBR, put that rooster on the throne. Yes, I popped the top on a PBR, put that rooster on the throne. urban chicken keeping thing is going a little berserk. And in Charlottesville, this was interesting. Somebody in Richmond, the Style Weekly magazine, y'all know that weekly. So they recognized that people were keeping chickens, and they recognized that there were different rules in Hanover County and Henrico County and in the city of Richmond and in Chesterfield County. And so they did this whole thing about, you know, what are the rules in the different localities for keeping chickens? How much land do you have to have? How many chickens can you have? Do they need to be in a pen? Do they, you know, all this stuff. And so this reporter was very enterprising. He says, well, you know, it's not just enough just to call around here. We ought to find out what they're doing elsewhere. So they called Charlottesville. They think, you know, everybody in Charlottesville, they're smart. You know, they know what to do. So what are the rules in Charlottesville? And they called somebody, and he says, oh, in Charlottesville, you know, no rules about chickens. What we have a problem with is goats. Goats. In Charlottesville, the problem is goats. And so there was a big controversy about this, and they were debating all the rules about goats, and it got so contentious that people actually had, you know, campaign bumper stickers related to this that said, I'm pro-goat and I vote. All right, I'm going to do one more song and then take a few questions. Jackie told me that maybe that would be a good idea. And so this last one is not a Virginia story. All the other stories have been kind of Virginia stories, even the made-up ones. This one is about, a fire that occurred a few years ago in Arizona. You may remember that. It was in 2013. It was just a tragic wildfire in Arizona. And this song is about that. And I took the title for this song from this book, Young Men and Fire. This book is by Norman MacLean, the writer who wrote A River Runs Through It. And this is a wonderful book because there was a fire in the 50s in Montana called the Man Gulch Fire. And very dramatic story. This is a really good book, interesting. And but there's a lot of parallels between those two incidents. And so I borrowed from Mr. MacLean the title for this song, which is called Young Man and Fire. In the Arizona desert, on a day hotter than hell, a wildfire broke out near the town of Yarnell. With half the houses gone and no end in sight, it fell to the hotshots to take on the fight. We loved the adventure and working outdoors, cutting trees and building lines. Our purpose was sure. Dry years meant work, and this year we had plenty. From Prescott to Flagstaff moved our crew of 20. When the dry lightning strikes and the desert explodes, and the heat and the smoke exact their punishing toll, how much can be given? What more can be required? In the fatal confrontation between young men and fire. Eric was our leader, the oldest at 43. A genius with a chainsaw, that was Billy Warnicki. Drew Ashcraft kept us laughing. Man, that joker was funny. Each man had a story in our fire crew of 20. day. I radioed for help when I felt the wind change. I saw the fire rage, and as the flames grew higher, I heard it scream and howl like a cruel demon choir. When the dry lightning strikes and the monsoon winds blow, and the heat and the smoke, they test your very soul. How much can be given? What more can be required? My brothers were lost in the Yarnell Hill fire. Now each man had a shelter, that's how they were found. You step into your tent, then you lay on the ground. They were husbands and fathers, brothers and sons, 19 now lost, leaving only one. Don't know the reason, I'll never know why. I'm here today, how I came to survive. We didn't want glory, we didn't do it for the money. Forever we're late, I'll forever be number 20. When the dry lightning strikes, the desert explodes, and the heat and the smoke exact their punishing toll. How much can be given? What more can be required? In the fatal confrontation between young men and fire. Thank you very much. Jackie thought there might be some questions, so I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. Yes. Yes.
When you're composing, do you write the words first, or do you like write a poem and then how do you do it?
Typically, yes. And I'm in a bit of a dry spell right now, so I'm not sure, but my process has been to pretty much write the story, get the rhymes and the meter worked out, and then add music. And sometimes the adding of music requires some changes, but that's my process. Other people do it exactly the opposite way. But that my emphasis is, I think, more on the wordplay, the rhyming scheme, and kind of telling stories.
So what's your background for this?
I read. I was an English major. My work involves some writing. I like to write, and so there's that. But I'm very interested in nonfiction stories, and so that's kind of where the connection comes.